Tuh. Okay, finally we got it working. Oh, that was not fun at all. Okay. All right. Sorry about the interruption in the streaming process. I have no idea what was going on, but so I tried vertically streaming and computer and trying making vertical videos on my computer. So I tried that. That didn't really work, but some of the testing that I did while I was doing that apparently kind of like remained. So I went live expecting this rectangular stream, but instead it went to the phone stream, which just caused a lot of chaos. So sorry about that, and hopefully going forward, like starting now, it should be fairly okay. Let me look at my channel. Okay, finally. All right, this is good. Anyway, I'm live because it's been a while since I went live to talk about some stuff with you guys, and also, I have some things to share. First of all, it's been 3 years since I started this YouTube channel. So yay! Thank you so much for your support over the past 3 years. It's been a very good run for me because doing this running this YouTube channel isn't really that much work, but I just try to give you guys something every day in small bite-sized pieces, and then it ends up helping you guys. It ends up giving you guys something to ruminate over. And 3 years of that casual kind of work, I think, is really great, and I can't do it without your support, so thank you so much. Malachi, what's up, my buddy? So I was just saying, it's been 3 years since I started this YouTube channel. I got a notification from the YouTube Creator Studio. It said 3 years, happy third anniversary on YouTube. So that's good. So I wanted to start with that. Also, some life changes. And earlier this year, around February, I've been streaming a lot more, and I told you guys I want to stream more frequently, but because of my work and I don't know when I'm gonna be able to stream more reliably. Well, good news is, I quit my job. Well, I didn't quit yet, but submitted my notice, so I'm resigning from my job, and the last day is going to be on the 25th. So after the 25th, I'm gonna be able to come hop on live a little bit more reliably, just so that why do I do this? Why do I come on YouTube and talk to you guys in the videos and in the streams? It's all ultimately related to sort of my vision for this world, right? Uh, I have relieved myself from suffering, and I think it was a very great thing to do. And I just want to share that experience with you guys. And I want to hopefully be the person who kind of like lessens the weight on your shoulders. And in this day and age, there are some ways to do it, like one-on-one coaching sessions or coaching programs, which I'm already doing, right? But in this day and age, because we are on the phone a lot, it's important to kind of meet people where they're at. So I happen to watch a lot of live streams, and live streams is how I get a lot of my information. So I wanted to kind of be a provider, using these services too. So, um, all of this to say, you can expect more of this kind of stuff, more streaming, more talking about certain topical things. Also, my podcast, I have it as a YouTube playlist, but I haven't really used it as a podcast. But over time, I'm gonna be inviting more people. So Malachi here has always been so kind to invite me onto his podcast, but now I'm going to be inviting more people to speak on my podcast and onto these streams. so we can talk about a lot of things that are happening in our lives. So those are some of the updates I wanted to give you guys. Yeah, it's exciting times, and I have some traveling, plans coming up. But then who knows? Like, I'll be back and forth, going around in places. But regardless of where I'm at, I'm gonna be able to, shoot videos or come live, talk to you guys about a bunch of things. And well, that's sort of my personal life stuff. But yeah, today is the 4th of July. I haven't quit yet, but it's a holiday, and on Fridays, I'm done with my client sessions for the morning, and no work. So I thought it was a good time to hang around here for like an hour or two. Especially because I haven't done so in a really long time. I think the last time I was live was when I was running my procrastination seminar. I think that was the end of May. But yeah, now I'm at the wow, time really flies, huh? I remember it being the end of May and running the workshop, but now it's July. Also, birthday's coming up. My birthday's coming up again to make it all about me. I was born on July 7th of 87, so I'm a 777 guy, and it's my birthday coming up, and I don't know what to do with that information yet because I don't really try to go out and celebrate my birthday. So anyway, just wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, what have I been up to lately? I've been up to really teaching a lot of students, especially my business coaching students. And as I'm developing businesses for people, as I'm, as I'm coaching people around how to make money in a happy way. Something else I've been kind of like wanting to peek into is content creator coaching. So I've been reaching out, I've been trying to work with some TikTokers and the Instagram influencers, so to speak. And I've been working with them to kind of work on more, how can we make content in a happy way, right? Not in a way that chases the views and things like that, but how do we make content in a happy way? So I've been developing programs and methodologies to do that. Oh, wife's birthday is on the 17th. Happy birthday, early birthday. Yeah, a lot of sevens going on in July, huh? Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of content creator coaching, and my latest video is about perfectionism, right? And I talked about perfectionism simply because I work as I'm working with a lot of content creators. I come across a lot of content creators who want to create more, but they just simply can't because everything they make doesn't really look that nice, and it seems like it's very low quality. So I'm telling them, here are some ways you can overcome that, perfectionism. But then sometimes the perfectionism is so sticky that it just won't let you do anything. It's very paralyzing. So it's a topic I've been talking about with a lot of people, so that's why I was talking about that. And something else I've been working on is this is a book from my Buddhist teacher, Venerable Pomyun Sanim. He's a monk in Korea. And this is a really excellent book about activism in the modern world, and how it starts from individual liberation of suffering, which is so basically all the things that I say are kind of like regurgitations of what my Buddhist teachers told me, plus some of the American influence and the younger generation technological influence that I have in my life. So I think this book is such a great book to kind of keep in mind in the modern days, but unfortunately, this book is in Korean. So I've been wanting to really translate this book for the greater English speaking audience. So I'm working with my Buddhist order to translate this book to you guys. And the book is not that long, it's like 200 pages long, but it's full of treasure and it's really has a lot of great information and wisdom for your everyday life. So I'm working on that as well. FP, how's it going, mate? Um, if I remember correctly, you're from the United Kingdom, right? Yeah, it's getting late in Europe. But welcome to the stream. And I was just giving some personal updates of mine. And yeah, wanting to. So for the now that I'm not gonna have a job, I'm going to be ramping up a lot more stuff on my coaching business. So I'm gonna be working on my business full time. So I'm gonna be working with more clients, spending more time on YouTube, chatting with you guys, and then hopefully, I'm thinking of some kind of membership programs. Not just because you know it's gonna be like a way to, milk revenue or anything like that. But I'm working on some stuff that's gonna be kind of like actually interesting for you guys to keep in mind. It's gonna be like either a either a monthly package of content or a bi-weekly package of content that gives you some bit of life coaching, some bit of like concurrent topical things that I'm gonna discuss with my peers, and some of the some creative exercises, because a lot of people want to be creative, and some kind of like networking resources so that you can connect with other people, because a lot of people these days are also lonely. So I'm developing that kind of stuff, so stay tuned for that as well. When did I go full time? I'm gonna go full time starting from the 25th. I just turned in my resignation to my job. So I work at Disney as a software engineer, but I've been there for the last 8 years, which is a crazy amount of time. It's a very long time to be in one company. And in fact, I don't think I've ever worked at a company for 8 years before here. So good times. Went through a lot with the company. The company, like gave me a lot of opportunities to grow and everything. So even though I'm quitting, we didn't really leave in a bad terms. Simply, I think one of the things that really helps is that I'm not going to work for a competitor. You know, um, I'm not, gonna work at another software engineering company, and I don't have to have these conversations around. Well, when I interviewed at that place seemed so much better than what we have, here, and blah blah blah. So the conversations with my boss around quitting was very like it was very mutually respectful, simply because I'm kind of like retiring from software engineering. Yeah, it is a pretty long time, right? But I before I worked at Disney, I worked at Apple, and I worked at Foursquare, which is like sort of a startup company. And in big companies, it's kind of hard to see people who are there who have a really long tenure. And Apple had some people who had really long tenures, but then being the Silicon Valley and everything, people are always looking for that next higher paycheck, next, more exciting projects and things like that. So you see a lot of people bounce job from job in the Silicon Valley, but at Disney, right? Man, there's so many people who work at Disney for a really long time. So every year we do these kind of like recognitions, right? Like employee recognitions. And so sometimes you see like 40 years tenure at Disney. And it's like amazing. You work at the same, you let alone work for 40 years, but you work at the same company for 40 years. It's amazing. And Disney has a lot of that. Hey, Nisa. Hey, sorry I pinged you earlier, but I was having some trouble with OBS, but thankfully I got through it. Yeah. So, yeah, so 8 years seems like a lot in modern standards, but at Disney, it's really not like that long. Would you say it's like a hamster on a wheel? To be completely honest with you, so this is my impression of things. I think when you're kind of at a job for that long, it's because it's kind of comfortable, right? They pay you well enough, and they give you enough resources, they give you enough work to make the, stay worthwhile. So after a while, it becomes very much like a hamster on wheels. It just becomes your primary way of having your kids go to college. It primarily becomes a way you kind of like sustain your retirement. So yeah, job wise, it's okay, it's good. But like yeah, it is kind of like a hamster on a wheel. And not but the thing is, like, even with the hamster on a wheel, I wouldn't say the work is completely meaningless. But compared to talking with you guys, compared to talking with my clients and helping them resolve their suffering, helping them get over their perfectionism and things like that, the satisfaction that I derive from that is so much greater than the satisfaction that I get when I write good code, which used to be the case for me, right? I used to thrive on the fact that I write good code. I don't even know if I write fucking good code, but like that used to be my whole identity. But doing this kind of work, talking with you guys, relieving suffering, that's just way much more meaningful use of my time to me. Yeah, congrats on resolving the OBS trouble. Yeah, so the problem turned out to be I was testing vertical streaming, but then it didn't work last time I did it. But then I forgot to clear a setting, and what happened was so I turned the stream on expecting this experience, right? Because when you get the normal stream, it my usual viewers come in, and then I get to talk to you guys. But then suddenly like 24 people came in and started watching. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then one person is like, loser. I'm like, wait, this doesn't feel like my viewers. And so I checked the studios, and it's like my stream was going to the mobile streaming, right? So it was going to like that audience, and I was like, oh, that's why. And then, but as soon as somebody said loser, somebody else came in and they were like winner. I'm like, oh, the world is kind of a good place. Yeah. Yeah, but like Nisa, you said, you get to see the effects of the work more directly. Yeah. And to be, to talk a little bit more about the effect of the work, sometimes it's a little bit more immediate, right? Because people come into the coaching session with a specific problem in mind, right? So Billy, like I really wanted to work on XYZ this week, but then I kept on making excuses, and I just I just couldn't get myself to work on these things. And then some sessions we hit the nail on the head, and then it's like, whoa, like I feel like I can do it like immediately, and then it unblocks them and they just go and do the work, right? So sometimes it's good, but the other times the work takes time, right? It takes time to change your personality, it takes time to change your work ethic and things like that. But I think it's a special feeling of kind of a satisfaction that you get when you watch another person grow over time. Yeah, but I understand. The calling other people losers. I don't take it personally, um, because it's like if I really think about it, I'm a person too, right? I'm a human being too. So I know what it's like to call other people losers. So if I'm watching TV and I'm so far removed from the person, right? And well, suppose I'm watching this like reality TV show. And the reality TV has, obviously very realistic people who do silly things for fame and money, right? So in that case, I can easily say, oh, that guy's a loser, right? So I know that it's not personal. That person can call me a loser because effectively what they're seeing is like a monkey on their phone. And but the thing is, I haven't met them before. I haven't talked to them before. So of course I understand. And you know, when I think of myself, watching TV and then calling other people losers, like I'm just kind of having a good time, right? I'm just relaxing, and then I'm just being myself. And I'm not trying to put on a face, and I'm just like relieving my stress, right? So for me to call another person a loser, yeah, my day must have been hard. I must be looking for an outlet. And then so when I look at that loser line, I'm like, oh, this person had a good time. This person had like an expression. And so it's like good. I mean, that's good for you. I think, calling other people losers, yeah, of course, it has some side effects of making other people feel a certain way. But then in the end, um, it is a way of expressing yourself, and you absolutely can with your phone. So you're just exercising your freedom of speech. And I can respect that. It doesn't have to make me feel good. Yeah. Uh, Oh, good guy. I don't know if I'm actively a good guy, but as a Buddhist, I just try my best to not be a bad guy. And this is something I tell my clients all the time, right? So if you're not doing something bad, like it doesn't make you a good person. It just makes you a person who's not doing bad things. But if you're not doing something good, it doesn't automatically make you a bad person. It's just that you don't do good things. You're just a neutral person. So, I don't know if I would qualify myself as a good person because, I try to do good, but am I good all the time? I'm not sure. But something I actively try to do is not do bad things all the time. So, I mean, I don't know. I go to jujitsu and I beat people up, but simply that's because what we signed up for, right? So I don't know if I'm always doing my best and they're trying to be a good guy, but yeah, look at this. Like I got mat burn yesterday. You know, and then there's a nail mark here. I think somebody had long nails as they were training jiu-jitsu yesterday. And this stuff looks really bad on camera, but basically what happened is I had warts, like on the skin, and it just keeps on. It's kept on spreading, and I'm about to quit my job, so there's not gonna be health insurance. Well, I'm gonna have health insurance, but I wanted to get it removed at the dermatology while I could, and so I did that. And then when you freeze warts, uh they have a freezing spray, and so they carefully sprayed on the warts, and then it just freezes the warts, and it's actually a lot more painful than I thought. I thought it wouldn't hurt that much. Um, and also, after it's frozen, I thought they would excise it immediately, but no, they just freeze it, and then I'm just good to go. And then after a few days, it just kind of pops by its own, and then it dies. But it just looks really gnarly on the camera. But yeah, especially when I'm jujitsu training, people think this is like a ringworm or like a skin condition that's contagious, and I'm telling you, I just got warts removed at the dermatologist. Yeah, good and evil are social constructs. Everything's a social construct. Yeah, it's a simple fact of life, but I think many people just kind of forget that this is a construct that we made for our convenience. And instead, we kind of bind to it, and then it becomes a reason to suffer. And I think that becomes a little bit silly. My favorite experience in doing martial arts, and I think it's especially because jujitsu is such a difficult martial art, you feel like you're not improving at all. Because you're always training with people who are always also there, right? So even if you are training diligently, so are other people. So it feels like you're always catching up, and the only way to be better than other people is for them to stop training and then you go train, right? Which sometimes happens. But what I'm saying is, because jujitsu is so hard, the rate of growth seems almost non-existent. It just feels like you're never getting better. But the crazy thing is, you look back every once in a while and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm moving like this. And that's it. I think that's such a great indicator of how what you think about your performance and what you think about your growth has really nothing to do with how you are actually growing and how you are kind of like progressing. So I think with martial arts, the most important thing, especially for lifetime kind of a commitment like jujitsu, because you know how karate, you know how taekwondo, you kind of do it for like you dabble in it and then you get your belt and then you quit. But the jujitsu is really difficult to progress in terms of a belt because of the skill ceiling is so high. So jujitsu is more of a longer term commitment, and for those things, it's important to kind of like have an understanding of why are we doing this, why am I in this, and having that kind of a longer term goal and then watching yourself progress into it, I think is such a meaningful experience. And I think jiu-jitsu is very meditative. But with that said though, I wouldn't say all jiu-jitsu schools are like this. I wouldn't say all jiu-jitsu schools cultivate martial arts like this, but I'm very lucky and I'm very fortunate to train where I train. And this is all thanks to my teacher Jean-Jacques Machado, and I totally lucked out. I started training at this school simply because it was the closest to me. But my teacher is like one of the best people in the world to I would even argue that he's the best in the world to participate in this sport, and he's disabled. Um, he doesn't have any fingers on his left hand, but he became a world champion in a grappling sport with no fingers. And when you have somebody like that as a teacher, it's just really and also not only is he just a does he have great performance in the sport, he is also a really great teacher. So it's been over the past 6 years, it's been a great privilege to work under him, and it's just I mean everything about jujitsu is like my favorite part. It's 2 p.m. in California. Well, it's 2:12, which means for me, yeah, my teacher is pretty crazy. He is one of a kind. Yeah. Let me see. So this is yeah, so this is my teacher, and this is something he says a lot. He's a white belt that never gave up. And you see, this is the right hand, and then this is the left hand. And you see how it's a congenital condition. It's an amniotic band syndrome. But basically, in a grappling sport where you wear uniforms, right? He was able to come out on top. He became a world champion within the sport doing that. So I mean, he's just an inspirational person. Okay, so every 2 p.m. there's something I do, and it's reading my Buddhist order's newsletter. And so today I wanna do that with you guys. Yeah, but even if you're not training under John Jacques, first of all, depending on where you live, you might have one of our affiliate schools in your area. But also, even if you're not training under John Jacques, I think Jiu-Jitsu is just a generally good martial arts to get into for practical self-defense purposes too. Because these days, you never know when you're gonna run into like a street altercation. And I'm not a street fight guy, but it's a nice addition to have, right? To know that if I am gonna be in a street fight situation, I would be pretty well equipped to not beat other people up, but keep myself and my loved ones safe. And that's a really nice kind of that's a really nice side effect. Oh, but yeah, so today starting now I'm gonna be reading this with you guys. But also, my Buddhist order actually runs a Buddhism school. And the Buddhism school is for the English speaking audience. And there's also other languages. So, Intro to Buddhism 1 and Intro to Buddhism 2, these are both open for enrollment in my Buddhist order. And not only is it available in English, it's also available for Korean for non-Korean speakers. So if you're learning Korean and if you want to practice your learning, speaking and listening in Korean, while also learning Buddhism, you can take that. And it's available for the first time in Japanese, French, and German too. So if you wanted a more structured way to learn Buddhism and become a member of the same order as me, you want to become a fellow Buddhist as me, this is a great opportunity to do it. Jungto Buddhism School. So the website is jungtosociety.org. Let me put it in the chat. So you can go here. You can register for the Buddhism School. Okay. So now this is something I do every day at 2 p.m. So since I'm already here with you guys, I wanted to spend some time reading the newsletter. And this newsletter is how I could sort of stay connected to the vision of my Buddhist order and following what they are doing. Yeah, you definitely check it out. I took Buddhism. I took the same intro to Buddhism, but in Korean. So it's a very different kind of a learning experience. It's not this like study a book and then get tested. It's a very practice oriented way of learning Buddhism. So it won't just be theory that sits in your head. You're gonna actually there's gonna be a lot of quests that you do in your day to day, and then there's gonna be a lot of communication with your fellow students. So it's a very unique and distinct way of learning Buddhism, and I think it happens to be also very effective in learning about Buddhism as well. Okay, so some background context into what's been happening in my Buddhist order. So my Buddhist order is run by this person who is a Korean monk. He does he runs our organization, but also he does a lot of humanitarian work and a lot of inter-Buddhist kind of a work. So these days, what he does is there's a network of Buddhists called International Network of Engaged Buddhists, INEB, and this group is having a study, kind of a retreat in Korea with our Buddhist leader. And so they're learning about how we are doing Buddhism and how it compares to the Buddhism that they have in their own homeland. So this is the topic of today. Why does everything feel futile the more I practice? And so the INEB Day 7. Okay. Live broadcast of the weekly Dharma. Oh yeah, so this is another thing. If you finish the intro to Buddhism, you get to join the weekly Dharma calls, and I'm there too. So you can do the calls with me as a fellow participant. Okay. So after completing morning practice and meditation, Sinim headed to the Jungto Social and Cultural Center. Weekly Dharma assembly began at 10. Yeah, so for the people who are in Korea, they get to do it in person. So 7 monks from Southeast Asia are visiting Jungto Society through INEB. This visit marks the 10th study tour. And all the 7 monks are the monks that visit from INEB tend to be the Southeast Asian Theravada monks, which is different from Korean monks because Korean monks tend to be Mahayana or Zen Buddhists. This time, rather than first-time visitors, we have participants who have visited Jungto Society once during the past 10 years and who hold certain positions while working in various fields, such as education, environment, and practice in their own countries and regions. How do we practice, educate, train, and organize volunteers to carry out Dharma propagation and social engagement? So, this is something that I try to do in my YouTube channel as well, right? Or in my life in general, I practice and I educate people, and to my clients and students, I train them, and this is the part that I'm working on, organizing volunteers to carry out Dharma propagation and social engagement. Since Korean society has changed about 20 to 30 years ahead of Southeast Asian societies, looking at Korea's present allows us to anticipate how Southeast Asian societies might change in the future. So Dharma propagation means, so Dharma is basically like the good word of the Lord, so to speak. If it were another language, right? So the Dharma is like the teaching of the Buddha. But how it's different though is the teachings of Jesus Christ is ideas that Jesus Christ, the person, thought about and then spread the word with, right? So it tends to be other religions too. It tends to be around this one central figure and the ideas that this central figure had. Buddhism is a little bit different. So how it's different is the word Buddha, we think it refers to that like one person, right, who always is in the statues meditating. So yes, we do refer to that person as the Buddha. But the nuance is the Buddha is actually a title. Buddha means awakened one. So even before the Buddha became a Buddha, the concept of the Buddha already existed in Indian society. So at the time, in Hindu culture and in Indian culture in general, like spiritual awakening and being having your spirit align with like the higher powers. That's a very important thing in that culture, right? So in that culture, the highest of the teachers, the one who has awakened and the one who has seen all the truth and the knowledge and the wisdom, get the title of the Buddha. So the life of the Buddha, the person that we refer to as the Buddha, Gautama Siddhartha, even him, before he became a Buddha, his central mission was to become the Buddha. And so, since this is a concept that already existed, as a person, we are missing some key insight. And if we get that wisdom, if we get to that level, we can become a Buddha. So yes, like you said, Dharma is something that that's something that the awakened ones know. But for some reason, I don't know it yet. So all the Buddhas throughout human history, they all know the Dharma. But I don't think I'm at that level yet. How can you tell? Well, the primary condition for a Buddha is that they are completely free from suffering. So, Gautama Siddhartha is like, but I'm suffering right now as a human being. So there must be something that the Buddhas have realized. So there's this Dharma that the Buddhas they all saw in the past. What am I not seeing? So the Dharma is less about one person's idea. But the Dharma is something you realize. Why? Because it's already there. The Dharma is simply the truth and the reality. So, what is this? This is a cell phone. But what is a cell phone? And like Nisa and I discussed a little bit earlier, there are many levels to this, right? This is a piece of electronic. It's a social construct. But what is a piece of electronic? Well, it has parts like plastics and circuits and things like that. But what are those things? So we have these layers of things, right? But instead of thinking about all those individual components every time we see a phone, for our convenience, we say phone, right? But when we see a cell phone, we start having some mental images around how this phone is bad for your focus, or how this phone is so good for killing time. And so we have all these ideas that spawn, all these thoughts and feelings that spawn from this idea that this is a phone. But when you look at it from the perspective of the Dharma, it just is. So what do we call this? Well, compared to this is a book, this is a phone. Okay, but if I hold an iPhone here and this, then what is this? Well, this is an Android phone. Okay, then if I hold two Android phones, Pixel 4 and Pixel 6, what's this? Well, this is a Pixel 6. So just like that, every time we look at something, whatever we call it is contextual. But we mistake the contextual definition as the actual definition. So looking at this in the eyes of the Dharma is that this just is. So when you look at the Dharma, you look at the truth, you look at the reality. And what a lot of people are suffering from is confusion about the Dharma. They don't know, they either have no idea what the Dharma is, or they have mistaken views about what Dharma is. Like, oh, the Buddha said this. they attribute what the Buddha said to Dharma. But it's not that, right? That's like the whole thing about pointing at the moon and then mistaking that this is the moon because the finger is pointing to it. That kind of a thing, where it becomes a little bit meta. So Dharma I wouldn't say it removes categorization. Dharma allows you to just look at things as they are. So recall the earlier conversation about somebody calling me a loser, right? So if I were to suffer from that, how can they say such a thing from me? I'm not a loser. And then I have so many reasons to suffer from that single incident of one person deciding to call me a loser, right? But when I look at that statement, loser, in the eye of the Dharma, right? All I see is just 5 letters. If I didn't know English, it wouldn't mean anything to me. And because I'm looking at all there is, I am free to categorize however I want. Why? Because I know that there is no innate categorization. Them calling me a loser doesn't make me a loser. Them calling me a loser doesn't mean anything if I don't want it to mean anything. Them calling me a loser can mean a very hurtful thing if I believe it in that way, right? So correctly understanding the Dharma gives me a lot of power and flexibility in how I can live in the world, because I can interpret something as bad. It doesn't mean it's bad. But in order to actually be able to differentiate, is this actually bad or not? Yeah, so the Dharma, that's right. That's a component of it. When you have the Dharma, you have the ability to switch your worldview. Why? Because you have an understanding that your worldview is just one worldview out of an infinite possibility of worldviews. So the Dharma, understanding of the Dharma, gives you that ability transitively. So it's like, yeah, if you have 5 pens, you have the ability to switch pens, right? But in order to do so, you need to have 5 pens, or you need the awareness that you have 5 pens. But many people live with the awareness that there's only one way to live life. There's only one way that's good, and there's one way that's bad. And that's a very narrow view of the world, right? So Dharma gives you, oh, wait, this isn't real. This is just my hand. This is just my narrow field. And I gain the ability to look at things as they are. It's really as simple as that. But, it's a simple thing, but like, as I've, been blabbering on about for the next, past 10 minutes, there's a lot of nuance to this, right? So spreading this kind of like nuances, educating people on that. And that is what I would say Dharma propagation. Yes, unenlightened people are like horses with blinders. Another common saying is that people who are having a very convincing nightmare, because it feels so real. The reason to feel shame, the reason to feel shame, the reason to feel suffering, the reason to feel sad, it's all so convincing when we don't look at it in the Dharma. When we look at it like this, it's like, but it's so real. For example, my dog started having dementia. So he's getting old, right? Okay. So if I didn't know any better, right, I would be so sad and bummed out that my dog is slowly losing his mind. But the thing is, he's 13 years old. That's a pretty, old age for a dog. And also, dementia is just like the brain naturally doing how it, goes through its life cycle. So, I don't feel sad when rain dries, but that's the end of rain, right? It's just what happens to rain when the rain ends and the sun rises. So when I don't have the Dharma, my dog having dementia is such a sad thing. Why? Because I think in my narrow worldview, in my convincing nightmare, that my dog needs to be healthy forever until I die. But that's not how the world operates. And so when I look at it from the Dharma, I'm like, okay, so that's happening. But I've had a wonderful time with my dog in the time that I had. There are a lot of people who never get the opportunity to stay with their dog for 13 years. But fortunately, I've been able to experience that. I can think this way because I just look at my dog and I just see the dog as is. There's no additional stories of how that's such a unfortunate thing or a fortunate thing. It's just like, dog is just a dog. And it's up to me to decide how I'm going to think about things. So, theoretically and conceptually, yeah, it's easy to say there's no reason to suffer. But depending on your life, there are going to be sticky topics, right? So, if you're like, if you've been traumatized, or if you went through a really tough time, and then you re-encounter your trigger, right? Then it can be a very different thing when you're talking about something that you're not really attached to. So, for example, you know, I wasn't always a dog guy, right? So before I had my dog, people would talk about dogs, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't really care. Because why? It's not my worldview. Like, I don't have a dog, so I don't know what it's like to have a dog. So I don't know what's good about having a dog. I don't know what's bad about having a dog. All I know is what it's like to observe other people with dogs, right? But having a dog changes my worldview. So just like that, some topics around the Dharma and suffering, it's going to be very easy to change your mind once you learn how to see things as is. But certain things are going to be very sticky. Like the prime example for that is like our relationship with our parents and our relationship with the people who used to abuse us and our relationship with our nationality and things like that, our history. So for example, like I'm a Korean guy, so there was a very long period of my time where I spent a lot of time thinking badly about Japanese people. Why? Simply because we used to be colonized by the Japanese people, right? But we have to be able to look at the Dharma in a truthful way and then unfold it so that we don't take things as a reason to suffer. Yeah, yeah, no worries, Nisa. The streams are for everyone, so I'm happy that you're getting something out of it. All right. So going back to this, since Korean society has changed about 20, 30 years ahead of Southeast Asian societies, looking at Korea's present allows us to anticipate how Southeast Asian society might change in the future. And I've heard arguments about how Korea is really speedrunning capitalism to the point where like it's kind of forecasting what will eventually happen to America because we are a much more small and contained kind of a society. This provides an opportunity to learn good aspects in advance and examine how to prevent undesirable aspects. In particular, the rapid collapse of rural Korean society is often described with the term regional extinction. This is very, very the case in Korea. Since Southeast Asia is also a society centered around rural areas, as industrialization progresses, Buddhism based in rural areas will inevitably be shaken. Additionally, without measures to address people migrating to cities or going abroad for work, even Buddha-centered countries are likely to transform into multi-religious societies. However, if one only remains in their region, it's difficult to know how their society will change. Only by looking in from the outside can one gauge future changes in advance and find appropriate countermeasures. So these are generally like good pieces of knowledge and wisdom for you to also have in your life, right? Yeah, and the whole reason why I do this is also because I want to share our flavor of Buddhism to the wider audience, especially the English speaking audience. Alleviate pain and human suffering. Even if there are shortcomings, I hope our experience can be shared and provide good learning opportunities with them. Why does everything feel more futile the more I practice? It took me 3 years from when I first learned about you to becoming a member of Jungto Society. What's the meaning of all this? Buddha would know my heart even without prostrations. If my mind is pure, this place is a temple and I'm a monk, why do I need to go to temples? Seem like someone who thinks everything is meaningless and futile. Why is my mind like this? Actually, everything seems futile. Should I go to the hospital? Yeah, this is a thing that people mistake a lot. The meaning of impermanence is that since nothing is unchanging, there's nothing to be attached to. But you've gone beyond realizing that there's nothing to be attached to and have overflowed into thinking it's all meaningless. There's no point in doing anything. When scriptures say the world is impermanent, it doesn't mean everything is meaningless, but that things change and therefore there's nothing to be attached to. Change means things don't stay but keep change means things don't stay still but keep transforming. That's why there's nothing to be attached to. But now you're thinking, why live when we're going to die anyway? Why see flowers when they'll wither away? Accepting everything as meaningless. This is somewhat of an overflowing state. If it overflows too much, you need to go to the hospital, because if it overflows further, suicidal impulses might arise. The meaning of life disappears. What's the point of raising kids? They'll figure their out lives anyway. What's the point of taking care of my appearance? I'll age anyway. What's the point of prostration? My legs just hurt. When everything becomes meaningless like this, eventually the meaning of life disappears. This could lead to suicide. It's not just you. Among practitioners, about 1 to 2 out of 1,000 overflow like this. Even during Buddha's time, there were people who committed suicide for this reason. While contemplating corpses to realize that there is nothing to be attached to this body, some went too far and concluded that there is no meaning in living. You seem to be experiencing a similar side effect, progressing towards thinking, what's the point of living? If it reaches that state, you need to see doctor. However, your current state seems to be one of emptiness after letting go of attachments. It's like feeling restless after quitting smoking or feeling empty in the mornings after quitting drinking. Same when fasting. You're hungry, but when you fast, you have nothing to do. This is so real. Normally, you prepare food to eat, wash dishes after meals, have dessert, and drink tea. Before you know it, it's time for the next meal. Oh my god, I relate to this so much. But when you fast, you don't need to prepare food or wash dishes, so you suddenly have extra time. Even people who are always pressed for time find themselves with too much time when fasting, and that time feels boring and empty. This feeling is exactly the emptiness you feel when you let go of something you were attached to. No, people who quit their jobs also don't know what to do at first, but thankfully for me, I know what I'm doing. It's called withdrawal symptoms. Okay. Uh, that reminded me of a video topic that I wanted to make, so let me. Yeah, I'll leave the rest of the writing in the chat. this is a pretty good series to read every day. It comes out every day around 2 p.m. California time. So it's a good thing to kind of keep up to everything, and it's really inspirational too. Looking, watching how other people, especially the leader of Buddhist thought, how they live their life. They're so diligent. My clients and my students tell me I'm diligent, but like compared to my teachers, I'm like a fraction of what they do. Okay, so there was a topic that I wanted to discuss, and this was a question that I got from Discord. So let me talk about that with the recording. So on Discord today, I got a question from a friend, and this is something I actually talked about with a client yesterday as well. So I think it's a good time to talk about this topic in depth. Billy, I remember you once talked about being realistic in your life choices to avoid suffering. What were your insights into that? How does someone know what they really want to avoid getting in an automatic pilot kind of a life? So, this is a prior conversation I've had with this friend. So, the first part first. We need to be realistic in our life choices to avoid suffering. What's really meant by that is it's okay to want a lot of things out of your life, right? It gives you energy to try out new things. It motivates you to try things that you haven't done before. It motivates you to put in that extra mile. You know kind of what it's like to push yourself, risk some things and things like that. Those are all good things. Those are all good experiences. Those are all good qualities to have in your life. When it gets dicey though, when it starts venturing into the area of suffering, it's this. I need to do all of these things. But in our life, you will find that realistically, you are going to be confined to some sort of a limitation of how much you can do with your life. So, personally, for me, right, I would love to train 3 or 4 times in the week every week. So, that's my ideal desired state. I want to train a lot, jujitsu. But the thing is, my body is not that it's not that athletic. My nutrition isn't all that great, and I don't sleep that much to have a meaningful recovery. So what happens is every few weeks I get a herpes outbreak because I have herpes simplex type A, and that prevents me from sparring with people and going to train jiu-jitsu because this happens to be contagious, right? Or I might get a little sick. Why? Because my immunity goes down because jiu-jitsu is a very physically taxing sport. So, yeah, it's nice to have that goal of training consistently. But I have to understand with this body that's not genetically gifted for sports and athletics, being able to train this much already is kind of a blessing. So I need to be able to call the line of satisfaction. You know what? This is good. What I have right now, it's not necessarily bad. But the more we want things, the more we yearn things, especially things that don't really come naturally to us, especially things that are not realistic for us, the more likely it is that we are going to suffer. But again, the important thing is you're not I'm not arguing you shouldn't have these things. No, you should definitely have aspirations. You should definitely have big purposes and goals for your life. But you have to know that sometimes you will be limited by your reality. But with that said, right? How do we know what we really want to do with our lives? And especially, how do we know that when we do something, we're not going to regret it? This is a very tough question for people because in this day and age, we don't really want to make wrong investments. We want to make good investments with our time and money because everything is kind of a rare commodity these days, right? So it makes sense that we don't want to make investments that are going to be questionable or we're going to regret later. Okay. So the more we are regret averse, the more we want to be preemptively good. But because we are not fortune tellers, the reality of the situation right now is that we don't know. Would it be ideal if we knew? Yes. But the reality of where we are at right now is that we don't know. That has to be the foundational point. Okay. So we don't know. How are we going to know? There's only one way to know, and that's by experience. Let me pull up a drawing board. What's the drawing software that I installed recently? Man, because I like to draw when I explain things. And I installed the drawing software, but I forgot what it's called because I always leave it on. Oh, it's called Krita. Get my drawing. Okay, where is my canvas? Not that. Here. Okay, you all see my drawing, right? Well, of course you do, because... Okay, here we go. Can I zoom in a little bit? Okay, zoom in a little bit, and then let me reduce the... No, not that. Stroke. This is too thick. No, actually, it's not too thick. Let me... I could have sworn I knew how to... Okay, anyway. Going back to the explanation. So, I might have a question for you. What is your favorite Korean food? If you're not a Korean, you probably don't know what Korean food you like. So how are you going to find out? Well, you can Google Korean food and things like that, right? You can try to find out what is the food that I like eating based if I like, tortillas, what would I like as the, my Korean version of tortillas or whatever, right? But the thing is, you're only going to definitely know by experience. But the thing is, just because you have Korean food once, right? Are you gonna know what your favorite Korean food is? No. You're going to have to try a lot of different, Korean foods, right? So sometimes you'll try kalbi, sometimes you'll try, Korean fried chicken, sometimes you'll try a soup. You're gonna try a lot of different Korean foods, and then you're gonna eventually arrive at the Korean food that you like. But what if this particular food you didn't enjoy, but next time you have it at a restaurant, it's like, oh, this restaurant actually makes a really good kalbi. So, I thought I didn't like kalbi, but okay, I like kalbi. It's just that the last restaurant kind of sucked. So, what I'm saying is, the more experiences with Korean food you have, in general, the more you are going to be able to identify what your favorite Korean food is, right? So this is the very simple fact of life. Regardless of what you do, in your life, how are you going to know if it's the right decision for you? Well, the only way to know is simply by experiencing it. But we are, unfortunately, in this day and age, experience averse. Why? Because so there's many reasonings behind this, but I think we tend to be experience averse because we look at experiences in a binary way. So these are all different shapes, right? But if we just divide this into black or gray, then we can categorize it into these two, either this or the outside, right? So that's a very reductive way of looking at things. Because again, these are all different shapes, but we are not accounting for all the differences and all the nuances, and we are reducing it into is this A or B? So the greatest reduction that happens these days is it good or bad? But life doesn't always give you these binary experiences. Sometimes something will have parts that are good and something will have parts that are bad. Sometimes something that will have a really bad part is also going to have a really wonderful part. And here's the kicker though. One experience. So suppose you have experience one, right? And with experience one, you go through this kind of a journey. With experience two, you have this kind of a journey. With experience three, you have this kind of a journey. But the thing is, later down the line, you never know when parts of experience number one are going to come in handy later down the line. So why go through experience 1, 2, and 3? Well, you may have had a specific intent behind going through these experiences, right? But what I'm saying is, later down the line, in the future, suppose you are doing something completely new, and you are going for experience X, experience Y, and experience Z. You never know how a little experience that you had in experience number one is going to impact you in experience Y into the future. So many of magical life experiences come with these kinds of opportunities. The more we are open to experiencing different things in life, the more rich our lives become, even when we don't realize it. So, how do we get to know what we want? How do we get to know what we don't want? We know by experience. And I want you to be experience attracted, not experience averse. Now, on to the final topic, but how do we not regret? I think we tend to regret when it's too late. So, this must mean that we are not stopping and reviewing frequently enough. So, it's important to have a practice in our life that serves as a checkpoint. For me, I have a daily checkpoint. That's my daily Buddhist practices. And I have an annual Buddhist retreat that I go to. And from there, I do like an annual check of how my year has been going as a Buddhist practitioner. So you can have your quarterly checks or semi-annual checks and things like that, right? But it's important. If you're feeling like you're having too many regrets, then it's not the right decision to stop having experiences. It may be that you need more checkpoints into your life. But again, there's some extra factors that complicate this, right? What if you're just really paranoid and everything's gonna be bad? That's kind of a different topic. But for the purposes of this discussion, remember, having experiences is very important, and you never know what one experience is going to lead to. Sometimes it'll be bad, sometimes it'll be good. You never know. But knowing is so much better than wondering what could have been. All right, so that is the video of the day. All right, so oh man, it's already been an hour, and so all right, so I'm gonna be heading out, playing with my dogs, and having some time. Is that a gray hair I'm seeing? Well, I guess I'm also getting old too. But anyway, wow, it's really standing out right now. Must be the new webcam thing. Okay, enough of my distractions. Thank you so much for joining in. Whether you joined live or you're watching the video VOD. Again, 3 years of July Life Coach YouTube channel. Couldn't have done it without you. And I appreciate your viewership and support. All right, and I'll see you next time on stream. And after I'm done with my job, I'll have a schedule so that I can see you guys more regularly. All right, see you next time. Happy 4th of July.